Second, yes, he's from Uganda, where Muslims, where gay people often are harassed and killed, and there are anti-gay policies in Uganda. You know who they're organized by? Christians, not Muslims. If you just Google or read one book on Uganda, you'd understand that this is a Christian practice, not a Muslim practice. Third, when we talk about Siraj Wahaj, who's the imam who he was in a photo with, there's absolutely no evidence that he was in the room with 9/11 conspirators. That's not even being alleged by the prosecutors.
We're not even talking about 9/11. We're talking about the World Trade Center bombing. Two different things.
Please allow me to finish.
What I'm saying is, World Trade number one.
Please allow me to finish.
You're not even getting the timeline right.
I accidentally said 9/11 as opposed to World Trade Center. That's not the point. I concede. I said the wrong word. Now I'm going to replace the wrong word with the right word, which is World Trade Center. The point still is the prosecutors don't allege that Wahaj was in the room. So there's no evidence of that, even by the people who you're appealing to for evidence. Wahaj took a picture. A better comparable example would be when Donald Trump takes a picture with Joey Merlino, the convicted mob boss, right? He did it because he didn't know who Joey Merlino was. So Wahaj,
but what about this?
Who I don't believe,
all right, Mark.
Who is not a terrorist. I don't want to claim imam and celebrated in Brooklyn for his acts in the community, and that's what he was being praised for.
Look, time out.
What does
guys,
co-conspirator mean?
Hang on, Lindy.
Holy shit! This part. Unindicted co-conspirator. Unindicted co-conspirator. I love how she keeps trying to forget about the first part. Unindicted co-conspirator. Why do
Hang on. I think we've discussed this particular part of the Mamdani story enough. Here's the thing that I find extraordinary, and it's this, Lindy, which is he's on record, Mamdani, as wanting to defund the New York Police Department.
Thank you, Piers.
And calling them a bunch of racists. I would have thought, I mean, call me old-fashioned, but anybody that literally posted that the racist NYPD should be defunded, that would be disqualifying to be mayor of New York. And yet here he is, mayor of New York.
Why would that be disqualifying?
Piers, amen. Thank
Why
you
would that be disqualifying?
This
to say
is
you
New York City.
Defund the NYPD.
Absolutely, New York City.
What's the answer to the question?
Mark, it's my turn.
Let Lindy go first, and I'll let you respond.
I'm not cutting you off. I'm asking a question.
Please, let me finish. 40% of unsolved murders. This is New York City, the biggest city in the country, and 40% of murders have been unsolved. And he wants to defund the police? Yeah, okay. And then according to some studies, 25% of New York, they want to flee because of his policies, okay? He's on a speedway to hell. And another thing is...
They're going to leave one of the most profitable cities. I mean, outside of California, but they're going to leave one of the most prosperous places, probably one of the most touristic places, and be like, I got to get out of here because of Mamdani. Fuck, no, they're not leaving. Too much money to me.
Mark, I felt like I was talking to, what's his name? Frank Luntz. I felt like I was listening to a new age therapist. Like, is he crazy? He wants to put forward people like Wes Moore and Cory Booker. Let's go through his people. Like, for example, Cory Booker tried the presidential campaign thing already. He was polling at 1 to 2%. Okay, so we already tried that. The trial balloon failed. Number 2, Wes Moore, he lied about getting a Bronze Star. These are the people that Frank Luntz wants to be the face of the Democratic Party? Then please, sounds good to me. And then he talks about the importance of Prop 50. Yes, it's important, but I also think it's a gift to Republicans. Because in this case...
I think she'll say, like, pneumonia is a gift to Republicans. Everything's a gift to Republicans. This is another one of these individuals that cried, I left the left because of X, Y, and Z. She's a fucking grifter by name. Just look her up. She's a fucking grifter. Republicans don't even want it because they know.
It allows Republicans to tie Gavin Newsom's failed policies to him. There's no way to disentangle the two. We are now able to tie $7 per gallon gas to Gavin Newsom. We can tie homeless encampments all across the state to Gavin Newsom. And you know what, Gavin Newsom, this is all about him running for 2028. This wasn't about the people of California. Right. This
it may be. Hang on. Don't talk at once. Hang on. Okay, I'll come to you, Mark, in a moment. But Vinny, I did find, Mark was asking me, well, what's wrong with saying defund the NYPD? I think a lot You know, if somebody was running for mayor of London on a ticket of defund the Metropolitan Police, I would think that's completely disqualifying, right?
What does defunding mean,
the idea
Piers?
that you brand? Well, hang on, Mark. I'll come back to you.
Hold on, Mark. He asked me a question, Mark. What are you talking about, bro? You're the mayor of the city, and you're saying to defund the police department, and you don't think that's some crazy outlandish ish to say?
Actually, not saying that. He's actually not saying.
When I tell you,
well, he did say that.
God, listen,
he did say
Aaron.
Not during the campaign.
Aaron, your job
not during the campaign, but it is on his record.
Every single lie.
Yes, sure. Let him finish.
It's on his record. And let me explain something, Piers. A couple of lies. He hates billionaires, right? Who funded his campaign? Soros, okay? He lied about defunding the police. He said he took that back. He lied about his aunt wearing a hijab on the subway. She wasn't his aunt, and she wasn't in New York City. Hold on. And he wants to legalize prostitution. And he wants to legalize prostitution. Or am I lying about that?
No, he doesn't.
You have to stick up. Your narrative has to stick.
Legalize prostitution. This is such a weird thing,
though. You have to, because you're full of it, bro. And hold on, last thing, and I'll give you the floor.
Everything you just said is
and
false.
Lindy nailed it. Cory Booker, Westmore. Hold on, I'll give you the floor. Give me 10 seconds. Piers, you heard Frank Luntz, and Lindy's right. They want to name all these Democrats. What's the first order of business that Newsom, Cory Booker, Westmore, they're all going to do? Number one, they're going to open up the border because they love illegals, okay? That's going to be number one. So every American that's watching this, don't get it twisted.
Okay, Vinny.
The moment a Democrat comes into power, the border's wide open. And what are you going to do? Nothing.
There are no Democrats on the floor that are deportation of violent crimes, which is something that Donald Trump said he was going to do. I think the problem is we're not understanding, and there are even some Republicans that are actually concerned and probably traumatized by the ethics and the way it's being done. Is the border encounters, we can keep the border encounters low and have people coming through legally and not having people come through illegally, is if we can keep that low, if that's even a real fucking stat with context, then that's a good thing. If you want to catch drug dealers, gangbangers, murderers, rapists, and they are illegal and you want to deport them, 100%, everybody will be on board that. You won't find a soul that after they get due process and they're proven guilty, they can be shipped. Nobody's going to care if you deport them. No one's going to care. This is just another misrepresentation of the Democratic stances when it comes to the border period. And we can always go back to the fact that there was a fucking plan before Trump called the fucking Republicans and said, nah, nuke it because I want to run on it. So there was a bipartisan idea. There was a bipartisan bill set up and replaced with something that's partisan because they only want one party to get credit for anything. They want one party to make decisions. Sounds very,
because nobody in your family's getting freaking touched by it.
Wait,
so shut up with that noise.
Wait, don't all talk at once. Don't all shout at once.
Can I make just one quick
Hang on,
point about the border?
hang on. Don't. If you all talk, no one can hear any of you. Mark Lamont Hill, the floor is yours.
Thank you. What I'm disputing here is how we're defining, or very interestingly, not defining defunding. You all are saying defunding and laying it out there, as many people have, which would suggest that he's saying, let's get rid of the police department and take care of and get rid of all of its resources, that we're just going to fire the police, which is not what he's saying. If he were saying that, that probably would be disqualifying to be mayor. What defunding means is taking money out of the police department and placing it in other departments where that work could be done. So when you give the example of, let me finish. So when you give the example of unsolved murders, defunding does not affect unsolved murders in that way. In fact, to the contrary, it would help to solve murders, and I'll tell you how. When police come out right now, and I'm only telling you this as someone who's written several books on this and has been part of the defunding movement for a decade, so you can shake your head, but I'm only giving you facts. You can disagree with my approach, but I'm telling you what the actual defunding movement is. When we say defunding, what we're talking about is saying right now, if someone has a drug overdose or someone has a mental health crisis, the police get sent out there. When someone is jaywalking, the police have to stop them and give them a ticket in many cities. We're using the police as tax collectors, as therapists, and as counselors. Defunding says let's take some of those resources that we're making the police do for jobs that they shouldn't be doing, and let's give them to therapists, to social workers, to drug treatment counselors, and let the police focus on, I don't know, policing. And so defunding
but he
is
also
actually
called. Yeah, but Mark, hang on, Mark. He also called.
I just want to say accurately defined.
Well,
Thank you for. I think this is the first time somebody's accurately defined.
Hang on.
Even if you disagree with it.
I understand. No, I listened to you. You had the floor. But he also called the NYPD a racist organization. Racist.
Also, he said queer liberation.
No, hang on, Lindy. Hang on. Please, look. It's much easier if everyone answers the questions I pose to them. So let me just ask Mark. Mark, do you believe the NYPD is racist?
Yes.
All of them?
Oh, God. There it is.
No, you just moved the goalpost.
Black,
No, hold on.
Middle Easterns,
no,
they're all racist.
No, hold on. You asked me if the department was the institution, and then you just said all of them as in individuals. Do I think every police officer is racist? Of course not. But we're talking about systemic racism. It's just like saying the school system sucks. It doesn't mean every teacher sucks, but the system itself doesn't work.
Going after crime does not make you racist.
I agree.
What the fool? I think I get frustrated with her. I think the reason I get frustrated with her, and maybe it's a little bit of misogyny coming out, but I get frustrated listening to her because it's like you're a part of the conversation and you're hearing the entire conversation, right? And like you're not there. You're there, but you're there. And then it comes feel like you lose consciousness for like 10 seconds. And then you come back to consciousness and you just say shit, just trying to get back into the conversation. She doesn't understand what she's talking about because she doesn't understand what was just fucking said. Nobody said crime was racist or stopping crime was racist.
Agree, but shooting unarmed black people does. Targeting black people.
Let me bring in Aaron. 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 Let me bring in other things. Let me bring in Aaron, please.
And attack that, or you can address what I actually said.
Let me bring in Aaron.
Crime is up 30% in New York City.
I'm going to bring in Aaron if it kills me. So let me bring in Aaron.
You can't die, Piers.
Here's my problem with Mamdani and why I call him a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm always very distrusting of politicians who post this kind of stuff 3-4 years ago, but now want us to believe that's not their real opinion. I think that is what he genuinely feels about the NYPD. And by the way, he's allowed to. We live in a free country. He can express that view, and I believe it was honestly held. But this sudden transformation to, oh no, I don't think the NYPD is racist. Oh no, I don't think that they should be defunded and so on. It's just a little bit too close to when he did believe that for me to think this guy is a serious person. You know, his views haven't changed in 3 years. His desire for power has, Aaron.
Sure, yeah. I mean, people will sometimes say things to get elected. That's called being a politician. It's part of the job. And I don't know what's inside his head. I don't know what his views are. But there's plenty of evidence, as Mark laid out, for why one would think that the NYPD is a racist institution. Not saying every single police officer, but institutionally is. And so I understand why he would think that. And on the issue of policy, defunding the police, Mark laid out what that means. Mamdani wants to create a Department of Community Safety, promoting community-based solutions to problems that can be handled by people in the community, which is proven. There's a long a scholarship on this about how these solutions work, and other cities do it. And it has support among a majority of New York City council, so it's not even a radical thing. And yeah, listen, I'm sure Mamdani is being pragmatic in some ways. That's called being a politician. You have to make compromises sometimes. But the bottom line is this. He centered the issue of affordability. He spoke to issues that nobody else was talking about. He sent a message of hope across the country to people who are feeling left out of politics. And look what happened in New York City. He got more than 100,000 people to turn out for him, to volunteer, to knock on doors. So people feel connected to his message. People feel that he stands by his convictions. And he got a record turnout, almost double the number of voters turned out in this election than did 4 years ago.
But only 51% voted. Only 51% voted for him, and a large number of people voted for the other Democrat.
Only the majority.
Well, no. He did enough to win.
He's peddling
Wait
a bunch of lies.
Lindy, don't start shouting. Enough to win, but but pretty close with the other Democrat candidate, who is the kind of antithesis on the Democrat side of everything Mamdani stands for, which comes back, I think, to the original point I was making. It could be a very great night for Mamdani, unquestionably, a great night for the progressive left wing of the Democratic Party. But actually, if he turns out to be a dud, as we've seen in the UK with Keir Starmer's Labour Party, and he can't deliver on the promises, and he ends up just taxing the hell out of everybody, if that happens, this could become a real millstone around the neck of the Democrats leading into the midterms and then particularly the general election, I think. Lindy.
Well, listen, sure, of course, anything's possible.
President Trump has already said he's going to withhold $18 billion. Aaron, I'm talking. President Trump has already promised, he's vowed to withhold $18 billion in federal funding. Governor Hochul has also said she's not going to, go all in all the socialist policies. So where is he going to get his money from?
Why is the president withholding 18? You know what? They don't give a fuck about people, bro. They don't give a fuck about Americans. Like, you are sincerely, the president of the United States during a government shutdown is threatening to withhold more fucking funds from people. That's not a good look. I wouldn't say that.
All the billionaires are fleeing. Hundreds of thousands of people might leave New York. Where do you think he's going to get the money to fuel his boondoggle? This is absolutely insane.
Boyfriend.
And by the way, I want to quote exactly what he said. This is not us putting words in his mouth. He said,
I get it. Look,
queer liberation means defund the police. And for you to have to interpret what he said and use a Zoran Mamdani dictionary to put the best light on his words is absolutely shameful. He hates these people.
If you're a member, look, just to remind you, if you're a member of the NYPD, your new mayor 5 years ago said the NYPD were racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety, and called to defund you. In 2023, just 2 years ago, at the Democrat Socialists of America's convention, Mamdani said, we have to make clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. Vinny, your final thought on that.
That was 100% correct. He's referring to the fact that the NYPD
was by the IDF. Because Piers, I don't know about you. You're in New York, Piers. I'm from New York, and there's nothing that makes me happy. You know what makes me comfortable, Piers? That if I'm getting stabbed or burned.
Actually, I think because the IDF did train. I don't know if it's all New York officers, but I believe they are trained or did use training exercises that were used by the IDF. So.
Burned to death on the subway. I want a social worker to come and just calm the murderer down. Okay, if you've never lived in New York and you've never been on a subway, don't talk to me about crime and cops being racist. They have the hardest freaking jobs
I've lived in New York
on the
for the last
planet.
20 years.
And look at the stats about how racist they are. And what are the stats? What are the odds? Give me the percentage of a cop shooting an unarmed black person in America. What's the number? It's so outlandish that it's such a big thing that they're racist. Give me a break. You guys are all being duped by Mamdani, but I love what Lindy said. Lindy, I'm actually going to adopt that mindset is let them do it, Piers. Let them happen. They're going to freaking feel it. And all the New Yorkers that are leaving, that have all the money, when they're all left and the dust settles in.
Baby, at the end of the day, this is just MAGA tears, and this is what we wanted. Yes.